What's the story, Hopper? What's this you're teaching us? Sifting through the bull crap because there's been so much. What's the truth now, Hopper? Do you think it's worth a look? Fixing revisionist history from all your school textbooks. Get the scoop now, Hopper. Fix the lies and fails. Sniffing out the bullshit. It's Hopper on the trail. Come on, Hopper. What's the story, Hopper?
Oh, I just love previous kids nostalgia, don't you? Brings me right back to my childhood.
So apparently, Steven Crowder is a giant piece of shit.
But when it comes to it, the new conservatism is the same as the old conservatism. It's just hatred for anybody who's not exactly like you.
Let's get this started. So by request of S-Man Speaks, he requested that I respond to the Cult of Dusty video in response to Steven Crowder's AIDS epidemic video, titled 100% Proof that Steven Crowder is a homophobic, lying piece of shit. And before I had ever saw Cult of Dusty's video, I had saw another video by DemotivatorOpinion pretty much stating the same thing, responding to the same exact video. And so I kind of want to respond to both of those videos in conjunction, but I will not go on that long with Tim's video. And on the note of how both of these videos go strawmanning and smearing Steven Crowder and conservatives in general, here I want to play you the clips.
There's absolutely no other way to interpret it than that Steven Crowder does not value gay people's lives.
He does not value the lives of gay people.
And before anybody accuses me of strawmanning him or putting words in his mouth...
Now you could accuse me of strawmanning or just making up a position here.
Yeah, you assholes. But enough chit-chat. Let's get right into this, as I will briefly touch on Tim's video, and then we will get to the prime meat and potatoes of this video, that being Cult of Dusty's video.
So the new conservatives that we see around today on the internet are always presented as young and cool and hip and trendy and with it. But Steven Crowder has just shown with his latest video that when it comes to conservatives, meet the new boss, it's the same as the old boss.
Meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah, that's because Steven Crowder totally represents every single conservative and their beliefs out there in the world. It would be like if I was to use Cenk Uygur as the pinnacle representation for every single liberal out there, and that Cenk Uygur represents the beliefs of all liberals. It's stupid logic.
They try to dress it up, and they try to act like they care about all of these different things, but when it comes to it, the new conservatism is the same as the old conservatism. It's just hatred for anybody who's not exactly like you.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like, your opinion, man.
Yeah, I totally admit it. I totally hate people like you, Tim, who are not like me, whereas I'm an anti-social justice warrior and you're a social justice warrior. So therefore, I hate you. But on the other flip side, far leftists hate Steven Crowder. Far leftists hate conservatives in general, especially conservative pundits and conservative politicians. So what's your point? But in all seriousness, this bit of bullcrap that he presents is totally just his own unbacked opinion. And I could go on and on forever about how I like this black guy or that gay dude myself, or how I know a conservative who likes gays and blacks, but that will not mean diddly squat to far leftists.
What am I talking about? Well, Steven Crowder just released a video about AIDS. And the thing that really stood out about this video was the fact that, there's no other way to put it, he does not value the lives of gay people. He just thinks that their lives are worth less. He thinks if homosexuals die, it doesn't count as much as if a straight person dies. Now, you could accuse me of strawmanning, or I'm just making up a position here. But seriously...
Statistically, the CDC puts a heterosexual American's chance of contracting AIDS at 0%, with 92% of all cases stemming directly from male-to-male sexual contact, and the majority of the remainder coming from intravenous drug use. But clawing at the hundreds of millions of dollars in government grants, fear-mongering ran rampant. But hindsight is 20/20. In the moment, everyone believed this silent, non-killer AIDS to truly be an epidemic, even though the chances of contracting it short of anal sex with gay strangers while shooting heroin was statistically non-existent. Matter of fact, the chances of a straight person contracting HIV in the modern world is 4 in 10,000 per exposure. Yes, the AIDS epidemic hoax is one of the greatest ever perpetrated in the American public, and one that inadvertently cost millions of lives of actual victims.
But is it really homophobic for Steven Crowder to be going talking about how gay people are more likely to contract AIDS than heterosexual people? No, that is not the sign of a fear or an intolerance towards anybody for him to be saying they are more likely to die from it. That is utter stupidity. And no, it is not homophobic as well to be talking about how AIDS got more research funding than for cancer or diabetes. That's just a statement of facts, bro. That is not a sign of intolerance or fear. And he might be implying that maybe we should focus more on other diseases rather than AIDS, but he isn't saying at all in his entire video, do not fund AIDS at all. He is saying that we should be focusing more on our efforts that kill more people. Cancer kills more people than AIDS.
Also, in the video, he talks about how there's too much funding going to HIV/AIDS versus real killers, like cancer and diabetes. And there's a far greater prevalence of diabetes and cancer than AIDS. But the thing that he never points out in the video is that AIDS is a death sentence.
Alright, stop right there. I want to correct Tim for the record on this. HIV/AIDS is not a death sentence. HIV/AIDS just causes for you to lose some of the effectiveness of your immune system. It does not directly kill you. It may contribute in weakening yourself so that you're more liable to die. And you know what? Steven Crowder might be crass and cynical for him to be calling it a silent non-killer, but all in all, he is correct for saying that it is a non-killer because HIV/AIDS in of itself does not kill you. All it does really is contribute to the ineffectiveness of your immune system, so you're more likely to die. But cancer would be more of a death sentence, actually. Have we even found a cure to cancer yet?
Whereas there's different kinds of cancer, there's less deadly kinds and there's more deadly kinds, and diabetes kills way more people than AIDS because way more people have it.
And for the whole onset of this video, he goes criticizing of how Steven Crowder at least implies, if not outright says, that we should direct funding more towards other diseases other than HIV/AIDS. That is not a homophobic position to be taking, because really, cancer does kill more people. And as you admitted, Tim, diabetes kills more people because more people have it. I mean, shouldn't we be focusing our money on saving more lives rather than less lives? Because focusing more funding in HIV/AIDS, that is saving less lives rather than saving more lives by directing more funding towards cancer research. I mean, Jeremy, will you please help me out a little bit here?
Please, have a sense of proportion.
Yeah, thank you, Irons. Now, I'm not going to go on for the rest of this video. Like I said, I only wanted to briefly touch on Tim's video. The whole onset of it is that he is calling Steven Crowder homophobic just for stating that gay people are more likely to die. So, gay people's lives don't matter, and you get that from him saying gay people are more likely to die from HIV/AIDS. And really, the whole video is just an unbacked, opinionated rant against conservatives, and Steven Crowder primarily, but of how conservatives in general are a whole bunch of anti-gay bigots. And for that, I have only this to say to the entirety of Tim's video.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
And now, on that note, I want to get on to the Prime video that I'm responding to.
There's really no other way to interpret this, folks. Basically, he's saying, so what if 30 million gay people died from AIDS? AIDS doesn't really affect straight people, so who gives a fuck about those faggots? They aren't real victims. 30 million gay deaths is not a real mortality rate. They're just a bunch of disgusting buttfuckers. Who cares about their lives? Why are we wasting all this money on these fucking queers? Who cares if they die? It doesn't really affect us straight people, so AIDS is no big deal.
Okay, I have just one question before continuing on, and this might come off as a bit of an ad hominem attack, and a whole lot of you might find Steven Crowder's voice to be pretty cringy, but anyway, is it me, or does it sound like that Cult of Dusty is constipated shitting on the toilet as he is ranting right here?
Let's go through this section by section, and I'll show you guys just how vile and retarded this walking lobotomy is.
Statistically, the CDC puts a heterosexual American's chance of contracting AIDS at 0%.
Alright, stop. So I researched this for myself, and one of the first websites you come across is the CDC website, which directly tells you 24% of new HIV cases comes from heterosexual sex. So according to Google, at least 35 million people have died from AIDS since the beginning. So if you take that 24% and extrapolate it worldwide...
Wait, what? Worldwide? What was that Steven said a little bit earlier?
The CDC puts a heterosexual American's...
You get about 8.4 million straight people who have died from AIDS.
You know, I looked into the very website myself, and the CDC website goes talking about AIDS in America specifically. You know what stupid-ass move that Cult of Dusty has just pulled? He took a US percentage and applied it to a worldwide number. He applied the percentage of people in America who have HIV and are heterosexual and tried to apply it on the world. For all you know, Cult of Dusty, for all you know, Mr. Dusty Smith, can I call you Mr. Smith? How about Smitty? Does that work? For all you know, Smitty, the rate for people who are both contracting AIDS and straight could be an entirely different rate from the world compared to the US. Now, I tried to research the actual percentage of people in the entire world who have AIDS and are heterosexual, but I could not find any number relating to that. If you guys do find a number or a percentage for that more specifically, link it down below with a comment, please. That would be greatly appreciated. But all in all, even if, that still does not erase the fact that Cult of Dusty just pulled a stupid-ass move in his research, in his failed debunkery, to try and apply a US percentage on a worldwide number. That's not how you do data, people.
And there's no doubt in my mind that Crowder must have come across all these websites when he was researching this, but he decided not to be honest and share this information with his audience because it did not fit his narrative.
Alright, so what is the narrative that Steven Crowder is trying to put in this video? That AIDS does not affect straight people as much as gay people, that AIDS is not that big a deal, and that we should be directing our funds towards bigger killers like cancer and other diseases other than AIDS. Let's see if Cult of Dusty can destroy that narrative.
And I know exactly what he's doing here. I know the mental gymnastics he is doing to come up with the 0% figure. Basically what he's doing is this. He's saying there are 350 million people in America, and according to the CDC, 9,000 new cases a year are from heterosexual sex. So if you divide 350 million into 9,000, you get 0.0000257148. So he's right. There is a very statistically small chance that as a heterosexual person, you will get AIDS in any given year.
Alright then. So, what's your point? It seems that all in all, you and Steven agree that it is a very minimal chance that a straight person will contract AIDS. So, again, what's your point? And I will admit that it would be more correct for Steven to say that there is virtually no chance that a straight person will contract AIDS compared to a gay person. And the fact that he says 0%, like a solid 0%, then yeah, that is kind of incorrect. And also, I want to add that it is not mental gymnastics for a person to be rounding a fraction or decimal to the nearest whole number. People do that all the time in math, Colt.
So basically what he's saying is, this number is closer to 0% than 1%, so it's basically 0. This is some really fucking retarded logic. Yes, this number is a very low percentage, but when you're dealing with really big numbers, like 7 billion people.
He was not referring to the entire world population right there, Cult of Dusty. He was just referring to heterosexual Americans, for crying out loud. Get your information straight right now. You seem to be all scatterbrained.
Those low percentages can add up very quickly. And just to show you guys how fucking retarded his logic is, according to the New York Times, at least 5% of the male population has had some sort of homosexual experience.
Yeah, they had a homosexual experience. That does not mean that they were actual homosexuals, Cult of Dusty. For all you know, part of that 5% could be a straight person who got butt-fucked by a gay rapist. One single sodomy, one single touching of the dick by another man, one single drop of the soap does not automatically make you a gay person. Lust for the penis, when you yourself have a penis, is what makes you gay. Alright?
Which means there's roughly at least 8.8 million gay men in America. And according to the CDC, there are about 26,000 new cases of HIV every year in the homosexual community. So if you divide 26,000 by 8.8 million, you get 0.029545445, which is much closer to 0 than it is 1%. So according to Crowder's logic, there is a 0% chance that if you're a gay man, you will get AIDS.
You do realize that you're just adding fuel to the argument that Steven is trying to push here, right? When you're saying that there's a 0% chance that gay men will contract AIDS, just like with heterosexual people, you're basically adding fuel to the argument of his that AIDS is nothing big to worry about.
With 92% of all cases stemming directly from male-to-male sexual contact, and the majority of the remainder coming from intravenous drug use.
So it took me a really long time to figure out where he was getting these stats from, where he got this chart from. He didn't link to any of his sources.
As you can see on the Steven Crowder website regarding the AIDS video, on his website he has plenty of sources regarding AIDS. They may not be the exact sources that he uses in the specific video. In fact, I myself wish that he had linked the specific articles that he used, but he links sources nonetheless.
I'm assuming it's because he did not want his audience to look into it and find out for themselves that he's lying, but he is fucking lying. But eventually I did find where he got the stat from. It's from the CDC chart of adolescents and young males who get HIV. And despite the fact that he claims this chart shows 92% of all new HIV cases are from homosexual sex, that's not what it fucking shows at all. This chart does not even include the majority of the population. It excludes women. It simply very narrowly focuses on one male age group. And as I already showed you, 24% of new HIV cases come from heterosexual sex.
Okay, I'm going to say right now that Steven Crowder was wrong for saying that 92% of HIV cases are homosexual.
So Crowder is straight up 100% lying here. He is lying because he knows the majority of the dullards who follow him would not actually check into this.
You know, calling names and insulting the fan base of your opposition is not a good way to grab support. You know that, Cult of Dusty? And I'm going to go off on a limb, and because he had insulted them and called them names, that is a big reason why his like to dislike ratio is so bad. Because Steven Crowder fans were all like, this guy insulted me. Oh, that's how I think of your comments there, Dusty Smith. And also, on the note of people who will not check into his sources, I gotta ask, how many people of any viewership, like how many of the TYT fans, how many of the Secular Talk fans, how many of the fans of anybody, how many of the fans of Rush Limbaugh, how many of your fans check into your own research, for that matter. I mean, let's not pretend that it is just Steven Crowder. And I'll bet you anything that a majority of people who go listening to a political pundit, they just take the person's word at it, and they do not look into the research themselves.
But hell, here's the funny part. Even with the cherry-picked graphic he presents you with, it still doesn't even say what he claims it says. He claims that 92% of all new HIV cases are from male-on-male sex. And he also claims the majority of the rest of it comes from drug use. But if you actually look at the bullshit chart he picked,
so apparently the chart from the CDC, a scientific source, is bullshit. Is that what you're saying?
it doesn't say that at all. This thing specifically shows that even if you add up the male-on-male sex plus drug use and the drug use categories, that only equals 3.5%, whereas the heterosexual transmissions account for 3.7%. So Crowder is literally fucking lying about his lies. And this is what this guy fucking does. The truth does not matter to him. He knows his audience won't look into it, so he'll say any fucking thing he has to that furthers his narrative. Let's keep going, I'll show you.
Matter of fact, the chances of a straight person contracting HIV in the modern world is 4 in 10,000 per exposure. Meaning that if a man were even married to an HIV-infected bride, he'd have to engage in intercourse with her an average of 10,000 separate occasions to expose himself to contracting AIDS.
Okay, here we find out that Crowder can't even do basic math. 4 per every 10,000 occurrence is not the same thing as 1 per every 10,000 occurrence. 4 per every 10,000 occurrences means 1 per every 2,500 occurrences.
Alright, I'm just gonna give you the benefit of the doubt and say that you're right on that one, Cult of Dusty.
The number 10,000 is just the base number they use for all these stats. And he knows this because this is the page he got the information from. As you can see here, the 4 per 10,000 occurrences is for when a man has sex with a woman who has HIV. And as you can also see, for a woman who has sex with a man who has HIV, it jumps to 8 per 10,000 occurrences, which is about 1 in every 1,250. In fact, it shows very clearly on this page that if a heterosexual man is in a relationship with a woman who has HIV for 10 years, there is a 44% chance he's going to get it.
And that very same article that you cite to us, Cult of Dusty, it also states one paragraph later, that there is a 15% chance of the male contracting HIV with an HIV positive woman in a heterosexual relationship if they only just have PrEP as their own protection against HIV. PrEP also stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis. Now, I will fully admit that this whole situation is not as black and white as Steven Crowder is trying to make it out to be, and in fact, he is probably being dishonest, flat out dishonest, if not lying, to make it seem this black and white. But at the same time, I say to you, Cult of Dusty, that 44% chance that you cite to us is not as black and white as you make it out to be as well.
That means in a long-term heterosexual relationship, if one person has HIV and doesn't know it, there is a very good chance they're going to give it to their partner. So the fact that you failed at basic math and then cherry-picked very specific information off this page that fits your narrative.
He's not the only one cherry-picking. You cherry-picked one single sentence when a few sentences later, there's information that makes it seem not so black and white. And maybe even utterly dishonest in your rebuttal towards him.
And then left out some very, very important shit, did not share it with your audience, just shows you that you have no intention of being honest here. It's very obvious you are simply trying to mislead your audience into believing the bullshit, retarded narrative you have put forward.
Yeah, the narrative that Steven Crowder is trying to push in that gay people are more likely to contract AIDS than straight people, that AIDS is not that big a thing to worry about, and that more funding should go towards other diseases that kill more people as opposed to AIDS. Let's see, first off, the factor that he states that AIDS is more thing to worry about for gay people than straight people. In that same article that you cite to us, it says that there is a 100% chance for gay people to contract AIDS in a 10-year relationship with no anti-HIV protections. So you fail to destroy that part of his narrative. You fail also to mention of how this is such a big thing to worry about. I mean, you tell us that 35 million people over the course of history have died because of AIDS. If we were to take that world figure right there and then divide it by the amount of years that HIV/AIDS has been around, roughly about 1920, the death rate per year would be approximately 361,000. That doesn't even add up to the total population of my home city, Wichita, Kansas, that being about 400,000 people who live here. Even if we were to be generous to Dusty and say that 1981 was the start that HIV/AIDS has been around, that being the year that HIV/AIDS apparently was starting to kick in as a serious disease, it would be 35 million people died in total around the world from AIDS. Divide that by 36 years, it would only add up to 972,000 deaths approximately. That number doesn't even compare to the amount of deaths that we get worldwide from cancer, that being 7.6 million people per year who die worldwide from cancer. And even if you were to be even more generous with Dusty, there's 4 million people who die from cancer prematurely. 4 million to 1 million. It's still 4 times more people that die from cancer per year than people who die from HIV/AIDS if we were to take into account 1981 estimations. And the narrative that we should direct our funding towards other killers like cancer and so forth, which do, by the way, kill more people than HIV/AIDS. So despite the fact that you might have destroyed some little facets of his arguments to back his narrative, you have not destroyed his entire narrative on the whole set of things. And I am going to just say right now that neither you or Steven Crowder, for that matter, are really trustworthy on citing the data regarding HIV/AIDS. But that said, I'm going to go more with the narrative of Steven Crowder in that AIDS, all in all, is not that big a deal compared to other diseases at least, and that we should direct more funding towards diseases that claim more lives than HIV/AIDS.
And there you have it, folks, one last time. 35 million deaths from AIDS, not actual victims. Who cares if they died some of the most horrible, torturous ways known to man? Everybody knows that AIDS is preventable, so it's pretty much just their own fucking fault.
Alright, call me cynical for saying this, but it kinda sort of is, Dusty. I mean, I'm not saying that gay relations should not happen at all. In fact, I'm all for the liberty of anyone to marry whomever that they want, but gay people do not need to have sex. It is only a want for them to have sex. They do not need to have sex. I mean, the only need for sex is when you're one to reproduce and repopulate, to try and keep up the population via, yes, heterosexual marriage. I'm just being realistic here, people. There's really no need for gay people to have sex. That's not to say that just because it's a luxury for them that it should be outlawed. In fact, there are other luxuries out there in the world that are not banned. So I say, yeah, go ahead. Let them have their luxury to screw each other in the butt. But just like gay people, even though they do not need to have sex, they still willingly expose themselves to HIV/AIDS by having sex just because they wanted the sexual pleasure of, well, having sex. Just like if somebody was to break the law, like use a fake social security number or a stolen social security number. If you get caught in the act and then arrested and pulled off to jail, well, that is pretty much, yeah, your own freaking fault. If we are to be realistic here. I mean, just for example, Dusty.
Why should we waste time trying to educate them and find a cure?
He did not say at any point in the video that we should not have any research funding towards HIV/AIDS. He just said that it should be less than that of cancer. That cancer research should be higher than HIV/AIDS.
The sad part is, I actually have fans that support Crowder financially. Simply because they think he is anti-SJW, they jump on board this shit and just ignore all the harmful bullshit he spreads. But sorry folks, if you support this guy, this is the kind of hatred you're paying for.
Yep, I am willing to bet anything that this is the main reason why Dusty has so many dislikes on his video right now, is because he alienates so many of his fans that actually are subscribed to both him and Steven Crowder. I mean, at least Potholer54, whenever he responds to Steven Crowder, is respectful towards Steven Crowder, but definitely respectful towards his audience.
Now, I'm not saying that you have to respect Steven Crowder when you respond to him. I'm not even saying that you have to respect his audience and his fan base when you respond to him. But if you want some good results to come out of your videos, it's probably best that you show some respect to the audience of the person and political pundit that you are responding to.
This stuff is tired, it's shameful, and those of you falling for this bullshit are simply being conned into voting against your own best interests.
Tell me, Smitty, how do you know what are the interests of us who are subscribed to Steven Crowder,
Fuck this video, fuck Crowder, and if you support this lying piece of shit, fuck you too.
That's real cute, Dusty. Fuck you too. What's up, everybody? Sorry that this video took so long for me to make and finally release, but I did. And if any of you want to complain about how this was heavily edited, how I edited out parts of both Tim's video and Dusty's video, well, you're right, but I tried to reduce it in time so that I could get this video done as quick as possible and make it as quick for you to watch as possible. But anyway, that is all that I have to say about both of these piece of crap videos, and see y'all later. Bye-bye.